Now, as you know, the cost of power in Australia has been a massive issue for years, but particularly in focus in the past couple of years because, as we know, we were promised a whole lot more than what we ended up getting. But to have as many people polishing for the government as they do currently in the media, as you know, headlines came out today, details very different.
Surging power prices appear to have finally stalled, with the energy regulator forecasting a slight dip. For the average household, the reduction will be about $50 a year.
But power bills are set to drop from July. The energy regulator revealing benchmark prices that will see households save around $50 a year and small businesses even more.
All right, but let's actually have a look at the detail. Because according to the actual offering, you can see that while there is a headline number here, it only really applies to one part of the country. Let me try to explain. Again, via the Nine website, this was their breakdown of the draft announcement today. And under the draft, residents in Sydney, Newcastle and the Hunter on the default offer will now pay between 3 and 3.5% less for electricity from July the 1st. Now, this is good, but let's not pretend that this is touching the sides or going anywhere near reversing the increases that have been around for the past couple of years since this government came to power. Meantime, people in the Illawarra and South Coast, their bills go down by 1.9 to 7%. And in South Australia, they're going to get a decrease of a massive 0.5. Massive 0.5, or maybe 2.5%, depending on if you happen to be in the right place and maybe even potentially in a small business. Now, what about in Melbourne? The actual reason why you heard today numbers around 7%, 7%, 7% was because the state government-owned instrumentality is the one that is suggesting that there is going to be a 6.4% decrease. Now, this is because, of course, it is state-run, it is state-owned, it is not run for profit. But that's the only major down. Let's go to regional New South Wales, where in regional New South Wales, on the Essential Energy Network, prices are going to rise. And they're going to be rising by about a point or $22. Meantime, if you are in a small business, you will go up by $41. Now, again, those numbers in and of themselves don't sound like they're going to break a bank, but on top of all of the other stuff that's been there. So in Sydney, it's ever so slightly down. In regional New South Wales, even smaller. In Victoria, it's the only place that goes down, but then you have to be connected, of course, to the state-run system. In regional New South Wales, it goes up. And the same, of course, for small business. Then we can, of course, talk about Queensland. What's happening in southeast Queensland? What's happening everywhere from the Sunshine Coast through to the Gold Coast? Well, I'll tell you exactly what's about to happen. Southeast Queensland power bills are set to increase by $53 a month. Now, again, we have been told how many times that power prices were heading in the wrong direction, and now they're heading in the right direction when they're still going up, or 4/5 of bugger all, in big parts of the country. Now, specifically, the capital of Western Sydney, that being Penrith, their local MP is Melissa McIntosh. Now, she got a new job in the reshuffle of Peter Dutton's shadow ministry, where her job is about affordable energy. And she says that since Labor took office, Western Sydney's been hit hard. This is the whole point. Ms McIntosh said that customers have experienced a cumulative electricity cost of up 37%. So down 0.5, down 3, down 7, down 10 is still a deficit. In fact, about $750 is her estimate about how much more power costs in her electorate, the capital of Western Sydney, the magnificent Penrith. Now, of course, all of this is very different than what you were promised when this government was applying for the job of ruining the country.
Reducing power prices by $275.
By 2025, $275 a year.
$275 a year.
We'll get power prices down by $275 a year.
So, obvious reason, question has to be asked in Parliament. Well, you won't be surprised what the answer is, but the question, it couldn't be clearer. Well done on a little bit here or a little bit there, but the reality is we are still way higher than we were when you came to office.
My question is to the Minister for Climate Change and Energy. This government promised Australians a $275 cut on their electricity bill by 2025, but households in my electorate of Lindsay are owed $1,027 cut to deliver on this promise. Today's release of draft regulated prices for electricity confirm this government's failure to deliver, with annual bills in Western Sydney up 37% on early 2022. Will the minister admit this promise will never be delivered?
Now, we have shown you the Prime Minister walking away pretending that the modelling has all been affected by the Ukraine war. Of course, his policy and promise of $2.75 was announced before the invasion took place. So we knew that this was going to be part of the equation, but they believe that it was just necessary to answer the question that Bill Shorten couldn't, which is, what's the cost of moving from one network that works to the one that makes people feel better? Well, of course, the answer is it was always going to cost more. The cost of putting in $1 trillion worth of changes were going to be handed on to the customer, and that is what has happened. Because while there's not enough renewables to replace what had been knocked over or blown up in things like coal-fired power, the failure to put things like gas into the system meant that what reliable power was still being produced by things like coal-fired power stations would go through the roof because there is so little of it left. For his part, the man who has brought this system to its knees, well, of course, he couldn't dare repeat the promise of $275. And remember, if anyone wants to play fiddle games with the $275, I told you exactly what to do. Find your bill. Find your bill from around May of 2022. Put it on your fridge. If it's $275 lower than that, then you should vote for the Labor Party. If not, by 2025, don't, because this idiot doesn't need any more power.
It is a welcome fact that the honourable member's constituents who are on the Ausgrid network, on the Endeavour Energy network, Mr Speaker, would have received a residential reduction in prices of up to 7%.
Unbelievable. And even if that was true, they're up 37, down 7. Oh, how amazing are we? You promised $275. It was very clear that it was from the day you were elected, $275 down by 2025. I get it, we're only in the first bit of 2024, but nobody believes they're going to achieve it, which of course means they were lying through their teeth, something we absolutely knew back then and have never let them forget.